Memorial Day is iris time in the Pacific Northwest. If you don't know about iris or how to grow them, we have tips from the experts at Schreiner's Iris Gardens. On this episode, we also visit their display gardens and preview their incredible Open Gardens event. Garden Time is brought to you by Capital Subaru in Salem, Oregon.
Here at Capital Subaru, we are family. From you, our customers, our coworkers, and even our actual family members work here. This is my son, Casey. We're generations ahead of the competition, and we're always working to keep you and your family moving.
We're here for you. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
All the support you need, from sales and financing to service and parts. We'll be here for you for generations to come.
And generations after that.
I'm Blake.
And I'm Casey. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
Where it's
your way on the Parkway.
Welcome to the Garden Time Podcast. We're based in the Pacific Northwest of the United States in a Zone 8 region. This zone deals with plants that can survive in 10 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer. I'm producer Jeff Gustin with your hosts Judy Ellaruzzo and Ryan Seeley. Welcome to Garden Time. Today we're at Schreiner's Iris Gardens and Kaiser, I guess.
North Kaiser. Yeah.
North Kaiser. We're here with Ben from the Schreiner family, and we're talking about iris today. And you guys are known as one of the, if not the leading, iris distributors, growers, hybridizers in the United States. I'm going to step out and I'm going to let you guys talk, but if you could just talk a little bit about the family and how you guys started. What year is this for you guys?
This is our 98th year. So it's fourth generation now. It was started by my great-grandpa, FX Schreiner, in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then my grandpa, Gus, and great-uncle Bob, they moved out here, like in the late 40s, I think? Yeah. And they looked around to see where the best place to grow iris. So they sent iris, I believe, to Tennessee. They sent iris to Klamath area, and they sent iris here, and this turned out to be one of the best places to grow iris. So they ended up moving out here, and they kind of slowly grew the business. It started right here, so like the display garden was our first field, and then my dad came in the business. My aunt Liz came in the business, she's still in the business today. My uncle Steve came in the business. My dad's cousin Dave came in the business, and so they kind of grew the business through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and now it's me and my Aunt Liz.
Nice. That's just amazing. It's like, what a history and legacy, and that you open it up too. I think that's so cool that we can come and visit it this time of year.
Yeah, we're opening Friday this week, but we open every May, usually from Mother's Day weekend to Memorial Day weekend. That's usually the best time for bloom. This year's a little different. Such a cold spring, so things are definitely running late. But yeah, we love opening up. We have a display garden like behind us, and it's we love doing it. Yeah.
And so, I mean, you guys are known for your irises, and you grow a lot of irises, and you have 98-year track record of growing them. So, about how many irises do you do? I mean, it's
too many. I think we have like commercially available. It's got to be over 500.
Wow.
But then we hybridize. We have our own breeding program, so you have tens of thousands of seedlings, and
right.
That you're growing and kind of evaluating, and then you're going to end up introducing them eventually. And we also have a lot of named varieties from other hybridizers that we use for hybridizing that we build up stock on, and then we'll start selling commercially. So it's around 500 or so that we list each year, but grow, it's, like I said, if you want to count the seedlings, it's going to be tens of thousands.
Right.
If you count like other name varieties that we're building stock on and seedlings we're going to introduce, like easily over 1,000.
Wow.
Because we've been out, for years, we found out, and we've walked the fields with you. It's always spectacular. And I remember one of the last times we were out, we walked through, the seedling fields, and it's unbelievable to see, and they're all slightly different.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you have some that are very similar, but then maybe you look a little closer and you see the beard's a little different color or a little bit different edging. Or maybe it has better bud count than the previous one. So yeah, I mean, like there's a vast rainbow of color, and you have new color enhancements you get, but then other times you're choosing one that's really similar, but maybe it performs better.
Yeah.
Um,
And look at this one. This is amazing. This is the cover girl, cover man of this year, and this is called Another Chapter, and that is one of your dad's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's a beautiful one. It's a placata. My dad loves placatas. And it's, placata's a pretty popular color class. But that one we chose to introduce because it has really good bud count. It grows really well. And so we thought it was worth introducing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he's retiring, and so you're kind of learning that. And if you see the catalog, there's this whole homage to Ray Schreiner about his breeding, and he's won awards all these years. Really amazing, good quality plants.
Yeah, he's been in charge of hybridizing since, I believe it was like early 80s, mid 80s.
Wow,
So, he's been, all the iris we've been introducing for decades have been his hybrids, and all the iris we're going to be introducing probably for another decade are his hybrids, because it takes a while to introduce an iris, generally 10 years or so from cross to introduction.
That's amazing.
So.
And you're doing them all, you said they're seedlings, so they're all, are you out, taking a little, dusting them for their pollen and crossing them that way, or how does it kind of a...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you just take the pollen off, and then you swap it on the one you want to cross with, and then the seed pod will form. And for the tall bearded one, so you're making those crosses in May, and then the seed pods are usually harvested depending on the weather, like July or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then it takes a while
You're
for that
waiting.
seedling to
Yeah.
come up to be able to produce enough to actually see what it does.
Yeah, so you get the seed pod July. You're going to plant those seeds in usually around late November, and then you're going to wait, not the next May, but the next May, you're likely to see the first bloom.
Wow.
And then you start evaluating, deciding whether to save it, and if you save it, you end up building up stock, and that's why it can take up to 10
Up to
years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Patient people.
Yeah.
And you probably have some pretty, when you're looking at tens of thousands of new introductions, you probably have some strict guidelines as to kind of what you're looking for, because that's a process. You want to make sure that the work in 10 years putting into it's going to do something. Right?
Definitely. I mean, like first off, you go on color. Like if it stands out, you're going to save it, and then because you could always use it for crossing and not introduce it. But then you start looking as you go further along, like bud count. You want something that has 8 or more buds because it's going to bloom longer in the garden.
Okay.
Like one of the biggest knocks I think on iris, maybe not really deservedly so, but it's a short bloom season. So if you have 8 or more buds, you're going to have a longer bloom in the garden. And then you obviously look for things like growing traits and habits. As you're growing something commercially, you want something that's going to be a really strong grower. You don't want something that struggles to get along, because you're not going to be able to really sell much of it. You start with color, and then you kind of whittle it down from there.
And there's probably tried and trues that you've had over the years that maybe you start seeing improvements on that same one. You might get a little bit more bloom count, or a longer bloom, or a stronger stem, or something like that. So it could be similar to what you had 50, 60, 98 years ago.
Yes,
that it's been improved over the
Yeah,
years.
definitely. I mean, so you're not, at least for us, we're not always just looking for new color. I mean,
Right.
if it's a color that's already out there, but you think it has improvements in other areas, then it's definitely worth introducing. Because if you have a really nice yellow that 7 buds, and now you have a really nice yellow that looks identical, but now you have 8 buds, 9 buds, it's worth.
Worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
And to go back about, you said, there's people that say, oh, iris don't bloom a long time, but really you can have iris blooming in your garden for a long time with different kinds of iris varieties.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like iris start with the dwarf iris, which are like this tall, and they're going to overlap with tulips. And then
Then I'm going to interrupt you. So this tall, for those that are listening, so roughly about a foot is the dwarf, and then it goes to what next?
intermediate. So the dwarf are about a foot or so or below, and then it graduates into the intermediate class, which will bloom after that, and they're kind of the bridge between the tall bearded and the dwarf. I believe they range, it's a little over 20 inches or so. And then the tall bearded, which is the most popular, and those are the ones that bloom typically in May that people come out to visit here. They will follow. And so if you stagger those and you have dwarf, intermediate, and tall, and also there's bloom seasons within each class. You can have an early blooming tall bearded, a mid-season blooming tall bearded, and then a late season tall bearded blooming. So if you have kind of those staggered through, you can have easily 6+ weeks of bloom.
That's a long time.
And then to add on to that, you have reblooming varieties, which will kind of take a break after their bloom in May, and then they will rebloom again, as you get into July, August, September.
Wow. Yeah, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
As gardeners, we want that, in our garden, and to have, it's such a unique flower. We were talking earlier about, it's just very unique, and to not have iris in the garden, I think a garden's lacking.
Yeah, I think there can be the focal point in any garden, especially in May. I think if you don't have iris, what are you doing?
I mean, we were talking fragrance.
Yes,
with irises too. I think some people may not think of them as being a fragrant plant.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, not every iris has the same. There's a range of fragrance in there, but we have, there's one ginger snap that smells like root beer.
Oh.
You have some that smell like grape. There are a lot of sweet scents. And if you come here and you walk in the display garden or you walk in our flower show, you pick up the scent right away.
Yeah.
And for me, because when they rebloom, they have that same scent in the summer, and whenever I smell them reblooming in the summer, I instantly think of May because the scent is so pronounced.
Is a scent something you can bloom or breed for, or is it just come with it? So if you have a really cool purple one and I want to breed in some grape fragrance into it versus a peanut butter fragrance or whatever it is, do you have that ability on the breeding?
You can try to get for fragrance. I mean, a particular fragrance I think would be challenging.
Right.
But definitely, if that's one of the things you're looking for, and we don't really look for that much. I mean, if it has a good scent, that's great. But we won't discard one that doesn't have a strong scent. But if you wanted to, yeah, you could try to breed for it. Yeah.
And when you keep adding new and new varieties every year, I'm sure there's some that kind of over time just kind of fall off. So you're not having 10,000 different ones in the catalog at any one time. But that's your new prunes. So there are some that will drop off.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, so we introduce 16 new tall bearded varieties ourselves each year. And then we will have new releases from other hybridizers that we add each year. We also right now introduce the iris from Joe Gio, a famous iris hybridizer. So his intros are introduced by us. So when you start adding those up, it's probably north of 30 varieties or so that are new each year. So yeah, that means you have 30 or so varieties that you need to stop sales on each year.
Right.
So that's always the hard part too, because I mean, you look at sales, which ones maybe are not performing that well, or maybe which colors we have a lot of. But then, people get attached to certain varieties, so it's always hard to discontinue some.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
And you were talking about the display garden, and so this has been a very unique spring. It's been cold out here in the Northwest and Oregon, Southwest Washington. It's a lot of rain in April, so there's not a lot of iris blooming behind us, but it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's a little similar to last year, being cold and wet, but then we've also had at least one day it was 93 already, and then just be mid-90s this weekend.
Right.
But I would think that the peak bloom this year would probably be late May, which is a little later than normal.
But coming out every year to see this garden is amazing, and you have so many companion plants, but maybe we'll catch things that we don't see. I see a new dogwood that I've never seen before, so it's kind of fun. It's something to really discover.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so my dad kind of took this display garden, started adding all these shrubs, trees, perennials, and so it's much more than just an iris garden. It does a really good job of showcasing what iris can be in the home gardener. And there's lots of things out there that you see. I mean, you come early, you don't have the massive color, but you get some early blooming varieties that you wouldn't see. We also still have dwarf iris blooming in the garden. And then you have, lupin are starting, allium are starting, and then there's lots of shrubs and trees for sure.
But speaking of, you're talking about the cold, wet spring. Is there something that the home gardener needs to be aware of at this point in time, and care, and what should they be looking out for?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Yeah.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, we hear slugs.
Slugs, I can attest to those on my irises. But
We always do that. Yeah.
Slugs are a big one. You have some slug damage in our garden. So yeah, you could bait for slugs or do it whatever kind of trapping or whatever you choose to do to control slugs. That would be a big thing. You can get leaf spot on the leaves when it's wet like this. It's just these brown little spores that'll kind of show up on the foliage, and that's usually just from being too wet. And you can spray with a general purpose fungicide, or you can just kind of trim the foliage if you'd like. Those are the big ones. I mean, you can have cold damage. We've seen some cold damage here, but I think generally in more like suburban environment, a garden environment, I don't think you're going to have a lot of cold damage. But those are the main pre-bloom issues with iris. Yeah.
so somebody that wants to say, they come out and they get super excited about an iris and want certain ones. How do they, purchase an iris? Does it come as a bulb? Does it come as a planted thing?
Yeah.
When do they plant it? How do they plant it? What kind of soil? Where do they like to live?
Sure.
What are some good things like that for the iris?
Iris like sun, so at least half day full sun. They like well-drained soil, so you don't want to put them in a low spot in your yard. If they're going to be sitting in water over the winter, they're not going to make it. They like to stay dry. They don't need a lot of water over the summer either. They're pretty drought tolerant. You need to water them in when you plant them, which you plant them over the summer, so July through September is when we ship our bare root rhizomes. So if people come out here and they want an iris, we have a selection of iris in pots and gallon pots and 4-inch pots, and so they could take those home with them. If they don't want to do that or see something or want something that we don't have in pots, we do mail order. So we have our printed catalog, we have our website, and they can go on there and they can place an order, and we ship, like I said, July through September.
Right. And you'll ship all over.
Yes, nationally, internationally as well.
Yeah.
So, and what people I don't think understand is you don't bury when you're planting. This is not like a normal plant where you would bury like a bulb.
Yes.
This one here stays relatively close to the surface, correct?
Yes. Yeah. The rhizome likes to sit on top. And so like when we ship the bare root, it's not going to just be the rhizome. There's a little bit of green foliage on there. So green foliage on top, the rhizome, and then the roots below. And so you kind of keep the rhizome basically level with the soil or so. Because if you bury too deep or you treat it like a bulb and you throw it in there, you're likely going to get rot. So you don't want to do that.
Do you need to thin them after a couple of years? Will they lose their bloom, or do they just keep spreading, or how does that work?
Yeah, they'll keep spreading, and usually we say every 3 to 5 years is probably the best guidance in terms of digging and dividing. But you can kind of just go based on what you see in bloom. So when you have a clump, when you first plant the first rhizome, I think it's like usually 75% or so will bloom that first year. And then the next year will be even better, and then better. But eventually you'll kind of see the diminishing returns, and it'll start growing, but the bloom kind of starts to go down. That's the sign that you need to dig and divide. And you dig and divide after they bloom. So generally 3-4 weeks after they bloom would be an okay time to replant. And you'd have until 6 weeks before the first frost in the fall to get that
So you
done.
got kind of a long window to get it in.
Yeah, so like if it's mid 90s and 100 degrees, just wait it out a little bit, wait till it's cooler, then go out and dig and divide.
And I know when you do send out the packages of the rhizomes, you have great information there, and there's like drawings so that like Jeff was saying, that you know exactly where to do that. And then on your website and your catalogs, you have all that information about how to take care of them, and you even sell the fertilizer because it's a nice kind of measurement of it to formula.
Yes, yeah, we sell the iris specific fertilizer. And we have lots, every order comes with a how to grow booklet with pictures, like you said. We also have videos on our, I think we have them on our YouTube, Facebook, all the social accounts. They kind of go through the planting, digging, dividing, all that kind of stuff. And then the fertilizer, so that, for iris, they don't like a lot of nitrogen, so it's a low nitrogen fertilizer. And the time to do that would be about a month before they bloom. So we generally say, when you see the tulips blooming in your in your garden, that's a great time to go out and fertilize your iris. And then you could do, if it's a reblooming variety, you'd want to do it right after bloom to kind of give them a jump start into the summer growth. Anytime you dig and divide would be a good time to fertilize, or if you get a new rhizome and you're planting it for the first time, that's another good time to fertilize.
And I know the aftercare, like in my garden, like when they're done, I either bring them in to enjoy them inside, or when the stem is done, I usually cut that off. But then I leave the leaves for a little bit, and is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. They feed on the leaves all summer, so you wouldn't want to trim the foliage back. You can trim the stalk off, that's fine. But yeah, leave the foliage. If it's green, leave it. If it's any browning or anything like that, you can trim that off. But otherwise, leave it. And then in the winter, once you do like your winter garden cleanup, you can cut the foliage way back, 3-4 inches, or you can leave it if it's green and you like it. It's up to you. We trim our foliage back in our garden just because it's less surface area for leaf spot spores to form, and so that's why we do that. In fact, last year we planted the first 4 beds out here in July, so they had quite a bit of leaf growth on them. They're a couple feet tall, the fans. And we saw that this spring that we had terrible leaf spot in those first 2 beds that weren't trimmed, and the rest of the garden was planted later, which not as much foliage. There's not really much leaf spot. So
you can control it that way, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to spray then.
Yeah.
You had mentioned bringing them in as a cut flower. So irises, I'm assuming, do great as a cut flower, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we sell lots of cuts. We sell mail order cuts, and of course here, people, if they want to take home bouquets, right, we have cuts available. Generally, they're going to last between like a week and 10 days, probably inside. The biggest thing on iris is they're always going to have multiple buds on each socket.
Right.
So the first flower will open, and then when that wilts, you can just go in and kind of snip that off or pop it off, and then it'll give room for the second flower to open. So
Gotcha.
A lot of times I think people think once the first flower is done that like the bouquet is done. But yeah, you just keep kind of grooming the flowers as you go, and it'll last a while.
Yeah, just kind of like deadheading any other thing in your
Yes,
garden. It's like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
There's more coming on, and that happens in the base too. Is there anything special you need to do with the water, or?
I mean, you can get whatever those packets are that
Yeah,
you put in
yeah.
cut flowers. Yeah, you could do those. I mean, the biggest thing we tell people is just, if you want them to last longer, don't put them in the sun.
Right.
Get them out of the window, a little cooler place, and they'll be fine.
And they play nicely with other flowers in a vase, because like daffodils don't want to be with other flowers because of all that little sap that comes out.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, there's tons of florists that love iris, and they mix them with all sorts of things. Now, the only thing that I would mention is the darker colors on iris. Once they fade, if you let them go too long, they can drip and they can stain. So if you have like a dark purple, you'd want to make sure that you're kind of watching that so that it's not dripping on
Gotcha.
tablecloth.
Don't put it on your white linen
Right.
tablecloth.
Exactly.
Well, Ben, thank you so much. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about open garden, the days that you have going on for the next few weeks. So we're going to get a message from Capital Subaru, and we'll be right back.
Here at Capital Subaru, we are family. From you, our customers, our coworkers, and even our actual family members work here. This is my son, Casey. We're generations ahead of the competition, and we're always working to keep you and your family moving.
We're here for you. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
All the support you need, from sales and financing to service and parts. We'll be here for you for generations to come.
And generations after that.
I'm Blake,
And I'm Casey. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
where it's
Your way on the Parkway.
For 75 years, Al's Garden and Home has been a favorite destination of local gardeners. Starting in a small roadside fruit stand off of 99E in Woodburn by Al Biggie, Al's has grown to 4 retail locations in the Portland metro area that also includes a huge growing operation near Hubbard. To ensure that you get the highest quality, Al's grows over 80% of the plants they sell. This 4th generation family-owned business is now one of the most recognized garden centers in the country. Stop by one of our 4 locations to learn why Al's is the first stop for Northwest gardeners.
DRAM is celebrating 75 years of design and manufacturing of quality watering tools. DRAM products feature 9 water patterns and are designed to nurture your plants with a shower of rain. DRAM for lawn and garden, available at garden centers near you.
and welcome back to Garden Time. We're at Schreiner's Iris Gardens today, and we're talking about irises. And we just talked a little bit about family history. The Schreiner family's been doing this nearly 100 years, and we've been there for a lot of that, so that's been kind of fun. And we talked a little bit about care and feeding, but we're now in the middle of May, and this is a big month for you guys because you have an open garden.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the open garden and what that means, because if you haven't been here, you've missed out. So
Yeah, we open this Friday, the Friday before Mother's Day, and we have our display garden, behind us here. We have the main garden, and then there's a little path, and then there's a smaller display garden, which was the original display garden. We have a flower show, potted plants for sale. We have one of our fields is open if you want to go walk out in the field. We just started a pollinator meadow, and we've created a little path for that, so people want to go through that. So there's lots to see, definitely.
And it's really for the whole family because the kids can kind of run around, it's safe, and it's beautiful. You bring your camera.
Oh yeah, definitely bring your camera. And we have tons of benches and picnic tables, so you can bring food out and have a picnic. On weekends, we're gonna have food carts here. So if you wanna grab some food from them and then sit at the picnic table, that works great too. So yeah, it's a good time.
And I know that for many years it was a free event, and we thank you for it, but things change, and so there's a fee to come.
Yeah, so there's there's different pricing, whether you buy tickets online or buy tickets at the event. But during the week, it's $5 for admission into the gardens. If you buy online, $6 if you show up. On weekends, it's $8 online and $10 if you show up in person.
But still, so much to do. I know Ryan and we've come a couple of times in the last few years, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah, and it's and you can see the amount of care that it takes to do these gardens. I mean, it's a large garden, and it's full of a lot of things other than just the irises.
Oh yeah, I mean we have lots of companion plants, so it's time to kind of show everything when the iris are blooming. So you got lupin, you got allium, you got columbine, ornamental poppies. You have dogwood, horse chestnut trees. So yeah, I mean, you have a lot of stuff.
Right.
A lot of stuff that's going to be showing its best right with the iris.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is kind of important to know, Slow, as you're introducing irises to your garden or already have iris and want to introduce other things. You can kind of see how they all play together, and get those different blooms and different colors in the garden.
Definitely. I mean, because if you see an iris in the field, it's great, but sometimes it's kind of hard to imagine what it looked like in your garden,
right,
or ideas of how to use it in your landscape. And I think that's what our display garden does really well. Is it gives you ideas on how you can use iris in your garden and landscape.
And I love that you can take something home. I think as gardeners, we love to take plants home with us, and you have a wide selection of iris, but some of the companion plants.
Yeah, we have potted iris in gallon and 4-inch pots. We have potted allium, because there's lots of allium out in our garden. We have potted daylilies. I think we have some Siberian iris as well. So yeah, definitely if you want to take some stuff home, we have it, and then we have cut iris too, so if you want to take a bouquet home, we have a bouquet of iris.
And it's, when you look out in the gardens right now, we're at the very early stages of the irises are blooming. So it's just now starting to get a little bit of color, but everything is labeled, which is great. So when you come and you see all these different blooms and you're trying to thumb through the catalog, everything is very well marked and labeled, so it's a good time to take those pictures.
Yeah, and if you see stuff that you like out there and we don't have it in pots, we have it online, so you can order online too. Right. Yeah.
And you mentioned daylily, and so the last couple of years you've been growing some daylilies that are really so cool from a breeder out of California.
Yeah, they're from Bill Marriott, so he was an iris breeder, and he knew my grandpa, and so there was connection there. And then he moved over to daylilies, and then so when he wanted to just focus on hybridizing and not selling the daylilies, he started giving them to us. And so we release his new introductions every year, and then we sell all of his other older stuff, and then some other named varieties that he used for hybridizing. So we've been growing daylilies probably for 5-6 years now, something like that. And we're actually shipping those now. So we do a spring shipping and a summer shipping. So
And talk about a great companion plant for the iris, because as the iris come into bloom, if you get your 6 to 8 week bloom out of your iris, then your daylilies are kicking in.
yeah, the daylilies follow not too long after the irises, and then also a lot of the daylilies are reblooming varieties as well.
Right.
Which for daylilies, iris there's really more like a pause, and then you see the rebloom months later.
Right.
Some of the daylilies that are rebloomers really is kind of continuous bloomers. I mean, like they basically bloom from July all the way into your frost. So yeah, it's a good way to get color throughout the whole growing season.
And really, we are broadcast all over now, and so really both of those plants can go to most of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, iris we don't ship to Florida and Hawaii. It doesn't get cold enough there to get the bloom every year. It just have foliage growth. But the daylilies can go everywhere. So they go to northern climates, southern climates. They're really adaptable plant.
And I think they're so unique because they have like sometimes 3 colors on them, and they're really thick substance where, like I always say my grandmother's daylilies don't look like that.
Yeah, the substance is really spectacular, and then the color variations are amazing. And then like I was saying, the rebloom, like when we started growing them, that's what I was kind of blown away with, because I was used to daylilies. Yeah, they bloom in early July, then they're done.
Right.
And the reblooming ones, I mean, like we'll have it out in the field and they'll be blooming until, like I said, you get a frost and then they'll stop. So,
So kind of to touch back to the open gardens a little bit, and people that do want to come out.
Yeah.
What's the best? Where should they go to find out more information on what's going on, and dates and times and tickets?
You can go to our website, schreinersgardens.com, and then we'll have updates on our Facebook page, Instagram page. So social media is also a great resource for that.
So you can book it online or just show up.
Yeah.
Are you here every day?
Yes. So we're the Friday before Mother's Day, and then last day will be May 31st. Depending on the bloom, we potentially could stay open later, but you'd have to check, like I said, check social accounts for that. Because it's hard to tell what the bloom's going to do, especially with the weather being.
It's a lot of things out of our control. Mother Nature kind of throws us curveballs. We just have to adjust.
Yeah, like going from winter to summer is kind of strange. So no spring.
Ben, thank you so much for being with us. So, depending on the weather, obviously people want to go and check out the Facebook and social media sites because that's updated by the minute sometimes,
yes,
as
definitely.
opposed to the website, which can take a couple days to get updated. And the best time for everybody to come out, and we've always kind of marked our calendar around Memorial Day weekend. You guys have a lot of stuff going on.
I think that's probably going to be around peak bloom this year, so that's probably a great time to come out. We do have a lot of stuff going on. There's going to be wine tasting in the garden, food carts, and then we're also going to have an artist fair.
The artists, I mean, we've bought art here, so it's beautiful stuff. And sometimes they're even doing their art as people are here, so you can sometimes see them painting and taking pictures. And
I mean, that goes all the time too, honestly. I mean, the artists love coming here, so a lot of times you'll come on a Tuesday and you'll see people out there painting or, so yeah.
Excellent. Well, if you are in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, Southwest Washington, try to make an effort to come and see the gardens. If you're outside the area, you can always go online to their website,
Schreinersgardens.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
And order some and grow some in your own garden, and then you don't even have to try to make the trek out here, but you can still enjoy
your own display garden.
Exactly, build your own display garden. Well, thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, we ask you to go to gardentime.tv. We'll have a written description of this story and links to their website and some of their social media. Thanks again, and happy gardening.
Hi, I'm Sarah with Portland Nursery, where our passion for plants has kept us rooted in this incredible community. A lot has changed since we first opened our doors, but through it all, we've remained family-owned and operated, dedicated to providing our neighbors the largest selection of the highest quality plants Portland has to offer. With hundreds of new plants arriving each week, you're guaranteed to find something exciting and unique. Portland Nursery, a passion for plants at 50th and Stark, 90th and Division.
DRAM is celebrating 75 years of design and manufacturing of quality watering tools. DRAM products feature 9 water patterns and are designed to nurture your plants with a shower of rain. DRAM for lawn and garden, available at garden centers near you.
Here at Capital Subaru, we are family. From you, our customers, our coworkers, and even our actual family members work here. This is my son, Casey. We're generations ahead of the competition, and we're always working to keep you and your family moving.
We're here for you. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
All the support you need, from sales and financing to service and parts. We'll be here for you for generations to come.
And generations after that.
I'm Blake,
And I'm Casey. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
where it's
Your way on the Parkway.